together because of the elements. So let's get started with our base page. This is from the 8.5 by 11 Patterns and Solids, and this measures at 8 1/4 across. And again, it is 8 3/4 in the height of the page. Now I've made a pocket down here, and it measures at 2.5 inches by 8.5, and I used some orange scraps, and then this green underneath here is also from my scraps. This off the sticker sheet is 1/4 inch, so I cut this at 3/8 of an inch, and then I backed it behind the sticker sheet. This is one of, I do believe, is now the last rub-on that I have, and I layered it so that when I put it on, I'm going to break the seal here in a minute, I'm going to be crushed if this didn't work, that I layered it literally over this, and then I mounted it on so that when you do come in here with something, oh look at that, it's perfect, then you're still going to see this bottom half, and if you come over here, you'll see how it blended into the top portion. And then from the sticker sheets, I took these 3 and accented, and that's the page, with the exception of my bling. And I thought I would save it for now. Get this on here, and then the base page is done. You might have to add a little bit to the end of this. Nope, it's perfect. All right, let that dry and set up. So this is how the base page finishes out. All right, so let's go in and let's start building our flaps. We have a few of them. So on our right side, we're going to have a flap that's going to be right at 6 inches by 5 3/4, and you're going to have a 1/2 inch score. So 6 by 5 3/4 with a 1/2 inch score. Tape it, and we're going to mount it to the upper portion of this so that it doesn't interfere with this assembly. This will create height, so I don't want any pushback on that. So I'm just going to bring it right up to the top and bring it, where'd my picker go? And bring it right up to that 1/2 inch score mark and fold it over. Also on the right side, moving things around on myself, we're going to have a larger flap that's going to be at 5 3/8 of an inch across by 8 7/8 in the height. So again, it's 5 3/8 by 8 3/4. But this time you're going to come in and you're going to score it at a 1/2 inch, and you're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. So 1/2 and then 5/8. And then this is going to come in and wrap around this. And you will see that when you do this, so that it takes in this bulk right here, you're going to want to be right about the middle of that hinge that we've created. Let me scoot that back in there where it's supposed to be. Square it up. There we go. Push back on this a little bit so that that hinge, that score line knows what it's supposed to do. So let's go move over to the left side. And we have another short panel that again is going to be at 6 inches by, this one's by 5 5/8. Did I cut them different? Just a minute. I did. Okay, and I'll explain why that is. So this one is at 5 5/8. You can take it at 5 1/4 if you want, so they're both even. I know what I did. It's 6 inches. So let me get it on and I'll explain to you what I did. Okay, so what happened was I had these two black pieces and I did not want them to go to waste. So I was using some of these larger squares, but I had to trim the squares down in order to fit in here. So this one being an 1/8 of an inch larger is because of these pre-cut pages that I didn't want to go to waste. So on both of these, when we get to those larger squares, I did trim them down a bit to fit these. Okay, so now we have the larger. Okay, I've got a mess here, because, and I'll show you here in a minute why. Okay, left side. This one's going to measure at 5 5/8 across by 8 3/4 in the height. 1/2 inch score with a 5/8 of an inch score. So same thing, you're going to come in. I'm going to center that just about the middle of that hinge so that it will take in the bulk that we've already put there. Lay this over. All right. Now I want to set my magnets. So I've already placed where I think my magnets need to be, and I'm using 2, and that's because there's going to be some weight added to this particular page on the front. I am going to take some of these spacers that I have, if I can get it up off the countertop. Okay, there's a spacer. Here's a magnet. Now I'm going to take a little bit of glue and make sure this is under. It's not supposed to be on the top. Make sure it's under. Fold this over and then slide it off. Take my spacers out of the way, and then I'm going to add some tape because that glue has not set up yet and I don't want the magnets moving around. Okay, now that that's done. So here on the front, we're going to make some pockets. Now, if you'll bear with me, I've got to take things apart. I've got them in order that they need to be installed. Oh, these things just sometimes drive me crazy. Okay, you're going to make 2 pockets. The first pocket is going to measure at 6 inches across by 5 1/2 inches. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on either side and then on the bottom. And then I cut at the diagonal, put tape, and then we're going to add this right here at the very bottom of the front of this page. Now, if you want to punch, if you have a punch, here's the sequence. Use a 3/4 inch punch here on the cardstock. On the patterned paper, you're going to use 1 inch. Mark where your center is on both this and the pattern paper so that you can center your punch correctly. At least that's how I do it. So I'm going to take this off. And then we're going to bring this right down here at the bottom. And then we're going to burnish it in, but I can't find my big orange burnish tool, so I'll use this one. And now you're going to make a second pocket. It's going to measure 6 inches across. It's going to be 3 3/4 in height. And then you're going to score around the 3 sides. And I forgot to put my tape on. Now, if you want to glue, that's fine. My preference is for tape. So you just attach it whatever manner you're most comfortable with. Oh, there it is. And now this one, I'm going to leave the flaps open. I'm going to put this down here at the bottom of the pocket we've already installed. I'm going to open these. I probably should have done it on the first one. Would have been easier, but it got on there. Okay, so that is the makeup of the album. Let's go back to the center because we're going to start to work on these. All right. We're using Hey Pumpkin, and then on the reverse side I have, this is out of the 8x8, and it will get trimmed to fit right here. And then on this side, out of the same 12 by 12. Why am I saying 8x8? This is out of the 12 by 12, this piece. And then we have No Tricks, All Treats. Now, if you don't like these 2 cards, use whatever 2 you want to see. And then across the bottom, I made a small pocket. This is going to measure 1 inch by this width, and mine came in at 5 3/8. So again, measure from just in front of that score line out to the edge. That way it guarantees that you're getting the correct measurement in the length. And then from scraps, I chose this piece. You can choose whatever piece you want. And then just to break this up a little bit, I took a green strip from scraps. And then I'm going to add my bling. Start just inside the hinge. Okay, so that is done. Now we're going to flip this over and we're going to add this. Okay, that side's done. Wow, I just felt something and noticed something. Look at how far, I don't know where these things are. Look how far off I am down here. Goodness sakes, I gotta release this from about halfway up. Okay, pull it in. There we go. That's much, much better. Okay, Hello Pumpkin is the cutout that I'm using. And then again, this is out of the 12 by 12s. And then I'm repeating the same process over here. I'm putting in a 1 inch, which I forgot to put tape on, a 1 inch tuck or band over here. Oh my goodness sakes, I am just making a muck of this page. Okay, let me turn that over because I need room over here, but this is where all my tools and everything is. So trying to keep this in frame, I'm smashing things up on my right-hand side. Start just in front of that score line and come across. And then we'll glue this piece on. And if I haven't stated before, all my pattern papers are cut to fit. I don't measure except for the base page, I don't measure literally every piece of paper. That's just, for me personally, for my crafting style, it's just way too much. So I'm always cutting to fit. I'm about one short. So I'm going to see if I can't sneak it in there, get it off my finger. There we go. All right. So these two are done as well as the inner page. Now let's cover these two. 12 by 12. You're going to cut two pieces to fit on both the right and the left panel. And again, there's no rules. If you like one side better than the other, change it. I just like to give all the papers fair play. Now here, we're going to create a tuck band so you can tuck something top and bottom and still at the same time commit a photo, and you can then tuck over it if that's what you wish. So this piece here measures 1 3/8 of an inch by 4 5/8. And then I'm using this as my pattern to kind of tie into what's going on here over the left and break up this scenery that we have here. You can use whatever scrap piece you prefer to use. Now, I'm going to put some bling here. And I'm going to put some bling here. And then out of the chipboard, I elected this piece. Now because of the bling, it's going to kind of stand up off the page. So the only thing I'm going to be able to secure is the bottom half of this. So I'm going to give it plenty of glue. I'm going to put it in the middle, and then I'm going to push down on it. Stand that candle up a little straighter. Okay, so that's where I'm at on that. Now let's go ahead and let's work on this side. Oh, I know what I had to do here. All right, so when I cut a previous piece, I came up short . I don't know why I rounded that corner. I needed to round this corner. Huh. Oh well. So I came up short. So what happened was I went like this, and that's, wait a minute. I need to make sure I've got the right pieces in the right place. Oh no. Oh, that went there. So I did have that cut right. I did have it. That's what happens when I've got things spread out here. All right, so then this is what happened. When I cut it in half, I have this gap, and this gap is what determined the size of these tucks. So you've got paper behind the tuck over here, but who knows? Over here, I've come up short. So here's my suggestion. You're going to need a piece of this for the front side. So if you want to hold off on doing this, I'll finish mine out so you'll know what it looks like. But hold off on cutting this until we trim up that one piece that's on the front side of this, so that way you do have enough to cover everything, because the front side is the most important side. This isn't, because you can make a tuck here wide enough to fill in any gap. So I am going to quickly add some tape to these because of my magnets. You know, as crafters, we do learn a few things on, well, my paper's short, but I can still do this by just cutting a pocket big enough to hide the gap. We all do it, whether it's putting a flower over a boo-boo or an embellishment over a boo-boo, we all do it. And I'm not one of those so perfect crafters that I've got to have everything absolutely spot on. Might help if I took that off. And I suppose I'm going to need to add some tape to this one. Got that a little long, so I'm just going to pull it back off the edge a bit. Now, it's important to lay it down here. Okay, now this is the same. It's 5 inches, 1 3/8 by 5 inches on this one. And I'm just going to come right there, and I should be able to cover it so it looks just like the one on the reverse side. Make sure all the tapes are underneath. And I cut the same piece of paper. And then out of the chipboard, oh, get up there, I picked the 3 pumpkins. And I think I'm going to use tape because I need instant contact, because again, there's a bit of a rise because of the bling I put on here. So I'm going to need to push down on the center, and I'm going to want instant contact. So I'm going to use tape. And there we go. So this is what we have so far. All right, let's work on this side, right side panel. Okay, you have a very large rub-on. Now I'm using this out of the 12 by 12 pack. That's where we got the floral. And I put that very large rub-on up here at the top. Just to my eye, that's just very striking. You can leave this down below for some hand journaling with a dark pen. You can put a small photo here, like maybe a 2 by 3, keeping in mind you've got a magnet sitting down here, and you don't want to interfere with that for contact. Okay, so that's done there. And again, like I said, you got a magnet here, and you're going to have a magnet down here. And keeping that in mind, you can actually set a photo in here that is no larger than 2.5 by 4. 2.5 by 4 or 2.5 by 3. You don't want to get it any wider. Okay, let's work on the front. Okay, so I have several moving pieces here. This is where the first cut came from on this 12 by 12 piece of paper. I can remove my pencil mark now. So once you cut this piece, that's why this one ended up short. So this is going to come in here like so. Now, for mine to fit inside that pocket, this is a rare occasion. Mine did trim out at just under 4 7/8 by 4 1/2. Okay, now for this piece, I went to my scraps and I got this beautiful orange design, and it is where I put the last black rose, last floral that I had, And now this is going to slip in here just like it did before. And if I got my, let's see, I'm off a little bit, and that's because I had measured without that being on there. So I had measured it like this. So I'm going to trim a little bit off this side to hopefully try and even out the placement here. Oh, that's a lot better. Okay, so I'm going to ink my edge. And now I'm going to glue it. Well, what am I hanging up on, for Pete's sake, here? I will win. I'm just ginger because of the glue that's on the back of this. All right, there we go. And then down here at the bottom, this came out of the 12 by 12. I did a special cut on this. It's not a scrap, so I went to the 12 by 12 and I cut out just enough for this. So what happened is that my 12 by 12 ends up like this, where I cut out a piece across the bottom, because I don't know how much of that I'm going to need on another page. So I'm trying to save it. Then I'm taking the ephemera, the pumpkin with the witch's hat, and a little bit of floral arrangement, and I'm going to glue it here to the front of this pocket. And then out of the ephemera, Sit for a Spell, I backed it on some black cardstock. And it's going to come up here. And then I'm going to start adding some bling to my pockets. I'm only doing the straight tops. I am not going to go around that loop because that is such a difficult thing to do. I want to try and use up some of these smaller pieces. Okay. Oh, come on. Okay. Okay, so we've got a pocket. Oh, I know what I want to add. There we go. And you got another pocket here. Again, you can put a nice smaller photo here. We've got two tucks here. We got a bottom top. And here we have some little tiny pockets, and then we got the great big pocket. So let's turn this over and let's get some tape on the back side. And we can get this installed. I'm going to run these the length of the pockets so that there's direct support for those. And then that's going to sit right here, just like so. But I'm going to turn it this way so I can take these off. I want to make sure that I've got good contact on that tape. All right, we're done. Okay. Thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you on the next build. Until then, bye-bye.